Chapter 14, The Breath Between Walls. The house spoke in floorboard creaks now, low, careful vowels stretched across the silence like something waiting for a name. The sound wasn't random. It had rhythm, inflection, long pauses that carried intent. A language of pressure and wood, learned only by those too tired to listen the normal way. Oren did not move. He could not. Not from fear, but because movement felt foreign now, like borrowing a body he no longer lived inside. The room around him pulsed, not with sound, but with memory. And not his. The walls breathed inward, though the ceiling rose like a cathedral, high and hunched. He could not tell if it was too vast or too close. A space carved from contradictions. It breathed like a sanctuary and stank like a throat. He felt it then, something settle beside him. A weight that didn't displace the air, only meaning. It wasn't seen or felt in the usual sense. It was noticed, like a thought you hadn't yet had. You were warned, said the mirror. Though it had no glass, no frame, no reflection, only presence. But not when. The voice cracked across him like paint under heat. Where is this part of the house? Oren asked, though the words felt unformed even as he spoke them, soft echoes of a question that may have existed only in another version of himself. The mirror peeled back. Not open, not shattered, peeled. Like soaked paper, thin and red with rain and something thicker. Through its slow parting, Oren saw the room before this one. The corridor lined with false doors and deeper still, a hallway where once, he had whispered a name. His own. Someone else's. It didn't matter now. The house had chewed through it, spat it back, and left behind a memory shaped like a spine. Elsewhere, though, elsewhere, had become a difficult word. Talia stepped into the slanted chamber at the base of the spiral stair. The ceiling was bent like the inside of a ribcage, and her shadow refused to follow her in. It curled at the threshold like a dead cat, twitching once, then still. Elias, who had not spoken since the staircase had folded downward from the ceiling, whispered. It's thinning. The air. The memory of air. A long, translucent sheet hung from the ceiling, trembling slightly as though afraid to be read. It was covered in writing that moved as your eyes moved, slipping just out of comprehension. Luna traced a finger along its edge. Her breath fogged the words briefly, though it should not have. This is what happens, she said, when forgetting becomes architecture. Behind them, a door that had not existed a moment before began to open, slowly, with ceremony. No draft moved it. No hand touched it. It opened with the deliberation of thought. And behind it stood nothing. Not darkness. Not void. Just absence. The kind of blankness that suggested something had been forcibly removed. Rowan pressed a hand to his chest, as if something had slipped inside his ribs unnoticed. It's begun to fold inward, he said. The house is forgetting us back. In the city, if it still deserved that name, no one noticed the changes at first. The clocks had stopped ticking, and yet time still passed. Just not forward. Not reliably. Children were being born with names too old for their families. Names once etched in unmarked graves, whispered in vanished lullabies. Some bore the marks of stories never told but deeply mourned, birthmarks in the shape of forgotten sigils, eyes that blinked out of sequence, tears that smelled of salt and ash. A woman awoke one morning to find her daughter's crayon drawing scrawled across the high corner of her ceiling. She lived alone. And across the cracked surfaces of puddles, reflections no longer matched. They lingered. They blinked long after the original eyes had closed. Some turned and walked away. Oren stood, or imagined he did. His feet made no impression. The floor rippled like memory, not wood. The mirror had become a passage, and it no longer waited. He stepped through. As he did, something peeled off him. Not skin. Something beneath that. Some intimacy of self the house no longer allowed him to keep. A version of him, the one that still believed in exits, stayed behind. It didn't protest. It simply watched him go, expressionless. Beneath the cliffs, the thing that had awakened began to hum. It was not a voice. It was not music. It was a note older than sound, slower than time. A frequency etched into the bone of the world. It slid its consciousness like oil through the hidden lines of forgotten architecture, basements, attics. Nests in the eaves. The locked trunks in ancestral closets. It passed through the memory of safety. It was not the house's enemy. It was its answer. And it had finally been remembered. In a small room that had once been a pantry, and was now a theater of bone, a child whispered to herself. The door is not a threshold. It's a verdict. She smiled, and it cracked her face too wide. The house exhaled again. But this time, it did not breathe back in.